I'm Dr. Bill Brennan. I teach urban history at the University of Regina, and I'm the chairman of Heritage Regina, which is a nonprofit organization in our city dedicated to the preservation of Regina's built heritage. I want to talk about one of my favorite heritage buildings across the street here, the Canada Life Assurance Building. It was constructed between 1912 and 1913. The construction of the building features a new technique in building construction. It has an all-steel frame which supports the floor load and the roof load of the building. This is a departure from the way buildings had been constructed in the 19th century, where the masonry walls supported the load of the building. Because of that, buildings typically weren't more than 4 or 5 stories tall. But first, iron frame members began to be added to buildings, and then steel beginning in 1890 with the construction of the Rand McNally building in Chicago. And that marked the beginning of what we have come to call the skyscraper. The term actually came from Harper's Weekly, an American magazine, which coined the phrase in 1894. The style of the building is interesting too. It's called the Chicago style. And it originated in large measure in Chicago. What sets the Chicago style apart from its predecessors is there's not much ornamentation on a Chicago style building. Some on the main floor, more on the top floor, especially the cornice at the top of the building. The purpose of the elaborately decorated cornice is to draw one's eye to the top of the building and be impressed by how vertical the building is. The Chicago style was an attempt to get away from the elaborately decorated styles that had preceded it. There are no pillars. The Canada Life Assurance Building doesn't look like a Greek temple. It doesn't have the elaborate decoration that we associate with earlier styles, which were based on medieval examples, for example. What's interesting too about the Canada Life Assurance Building is it's clad in terracotta. Terracotta is a man-made product. You take clay, put it in a mold, fire it, and then glaze it, and the different components can be put together to assemble the wall of the building. Terracotta is very durable, it's very smooth. I think it gives the building a really classy look, even today. Well, the building has had a number of tenants. Obviously, for a long time, it was the headquarters, the provincial headquarters for the Canada Life Assurance Company. In 1944, Tommy Douglas and the Cooperative Commonwealth Federation came to power in Saskatchewan, and they established a number of crown corporations, including an insurance company, which used to be called Saskatchewan Government Insurance Office. It's SGI now, of course. And in 1945, the provincial government took this building over to become the headquarters for SGI. The building was then acquired by a private developer, Mark Silver, in 1984, and he proceeded to restore it. And there have been other renovations and restorations since, especially the repair of much of the terracotta on the building, which was failing, and which was restored a few years ago. So this restoration work, restoring the terracotta on the building, brought awards to the architect, Harry Jedlick, who supervised the work, and Graycom Masonry and the other firms that were involved in implementing this restoration project on the Canada Life Assurance Building. It's great to see it restored to its previous glory and splendor. The building has also been designated as a provincial heritage property. In fact, it was one of the first buildings in the province to be designated by the provincial government as being of historical importance. It's significant that this building, Regina's first skyscraper, or one of the first, was constructed on 11th Avenue because 11th Avenue was overtaking South Railway Street, a block to the north, as the main hub of downtown Regina. In the 19th century, most of Regina's retail shops and stores and banks were located along South Railway Street, across from the railway station. But at the beginning of the 20th century, that began to change, and 11th Avenue became more important. When Regina became a city, it built a new city hall, and it built that new city hall on 11th Avenue. Across the street, a prominent South Railway Street retailer, R.H. Williams & Sons, built a new department store on 11th Avenue as well. Most of the banks that operated in Regina in the early 20th century built new branches on or near 11th Avenue. And the developers who constructed this building also located it on 11th Avenue. It's a sign of 11th Avenue's increasing prominence as the financial heart of downtown Regina, just as the construction of the new R.H. Williams department store on 11th Avenue is a sign that this street is becoming a more important retailing center. The other significant thing about 11th Avenue, you'd notice as soon as you walked out the door. The streetcars ran along 11th Avenue from 1911 on. Another indication that 11th Avenue was becoming a more important street in downtown Regina, and South Railway Street was becoming much less important. I think the reason why South Railway Street was early the center of retailing in Regina was because it was across the street from the railway station. And of course, Saskatchewan was seen as a land of opportunity. It was growing rapidly. By 1911, Saskatchewan was Canada's third biggest province. Regina was growing rapidly too, a population of about 3,000 when it became a city in 1903, a population of 30,000 by 1911. Saskatchewan seemed to have a great future, and it's not surprising that banks and insurance companies would see an opportunity to establish a presence in this rapidly growing city, in this rapidly growing province. This photograph is from a collection called the R.J. Leckie collection. R.J. Leckie was a building contractor in Regina who actually constructed the Canada Life Assurance building. This photograph was probably taken about 1914, and it certainly gives a sense of the style, the Chicago style, and the important elements and features of it, including the elaborately decorated cornice. This photograph shows the Canada Life Assurance Company building under construction, and you can see the steel frame that was pioneered in Chicago with the building of the Ron McNally building in 1890. Canada Life Assurance building is one of Regina's first skyscrapers, and its design and construction reflects the new technology that was pioneered in Chicago using all steel frame construction beginning in 1890 with the construction of the Ron McNally building in Chicago. All steel frame construction supports the load of the building. This makes it possible to build buildings much higher, much taller than had previously been the case. But one of the challenges in building these taller buildings was how do you facilitate vertical circulation within the building? And the solution came from another American innovator, Elisha Graves Otis, who invented the first electric elevator in the early 1850s. The all-steel frame and the electric elevator made skyscrapers possible, including the Canada Life Assurance building in Regina. It's important that Regina celebrates its important heritage buildings. They tell us something about the history of our city's place in the province and in North America. It illustrates how ideas cross borders, architectural styles and building techniques pioneered in Chicago and in the United States quickly find their way to a place like Regina, a city of 30,000 in 1911. These buildings tell us something about our past. It's important that we preserve and celebrate them as the city and the province have in the case of the Canada Life Assurance building with all the awards that it's received, and deservedly so. And there you go, the elevator awaits.
Thank you for joining us as we've watched another episode of, yes, gargoyles do live in Saskatchewan. My name is Audrey Price, and I'm the Provincial Coordinator for the Architectural Heritage Society of Saskatchewan. I want to tell you a few things about us, about what we do to help keep our built heritage for our future generations. We're a nonprofit society supported by SaskCulture and Saskatchewan Lotteries, whose main focus is to be the catalyst for education and preservation of Saskatchewan's built heritage. We do this by offering membership in the society to individuals and various organizations across Saskatchewan. We publish the Heritage Quarterly magazine, which highlights stories about Saskatchewan people and their efforts to preserve our built heritage. Members are encouraged to contribute articles and receive the publication as a benefit of their membership. We provide financial incentives to members through grants for the express purpose of keeping our built heritage for future generations. This series is also a part of that process of sharing with Saskatchewan people all the wonderful stories and the places those stories happened in.
Thanks for watching another episode of Yes, Gargoyles Do Live in Saskatchewan.